So in this lecture, we're going to look at Cloud Functions and Firestore triggers within the Cloud Functions. The material is already in Canvas. You can pull up this file from Canvas and follow together with this video. So let's kick off. All right, the first thing we do is include Cloud Functions in our project. But before we do that, I want to pull the lecture 15 from the repo. So git tags -l. So make sure that lecture 15 is there. Lecture 15 isn't there. Okay, now the tag has come. All right, git checkout tags /l1500 lecture 15 as L1501. So that's the starting point, and we're going to be making changes. So I'm calling it the branch 1501. All right, so let's get this code running. The Pixel API is there. Okay, run. Okay, I'm currently just pointing to a generic page which says Cloud Functions, and we can take it from there. All right. So as we see here, I start with saying Firebase init to start adding the project Cloud Functions. So in my terminal, I say Firebase init. And it's asking for a few things. What I want to do is Cloud Functions for my app. So I hit the space bar and then return. Now it's asking for use existing project, create new. So we want to use an existing project. And the project is the CSAN268S25G0, which is behind this, behind my repo. All right, we want JavaScript. No, we don't want ESLint. Install dependencies for npm. Okay, let's install dependencies. Okay, so we have now configured the Cloud Functions, and if we look at this file, Firebase RC, that's the Firebase resources. So it's basically saying the Firebase resource here is this project, CSAN268. And we have this Firebase JSON file, which has all these things. And what it added is this functions module for our Firebase JSON file. Okay, we normally don't touch that much. So one of the important things of Firebase Cloud Functions is that we can use it in emulator mode, so we can run them locally, and that makes development extremely easy. So what we have to do is we have to go to the service accounts and create a service account for our Cloud Function. And we will do this online, but if you look at the slides, it's basically currently you have a service accounts, and there we can create a service account. But there's also a convenient way to do it from the Firebase console, which is what we're going to do. So these are from the slides. And in the end, we have to download this service account to our directory and then export the application credentials. Okay, and the way I like to do it is I like emulator functions shell script, which exports the application credentials while I'm in the directory or in the project, and it starts the emulators with functions. All right, so let's do that. The first thing I do is I go to my project, and in my project settings, when I go to service accounts, I see that I can here generate a new private key, and that's what I should be doing. So I say create generate key. Okay, so it has created this key and saved it to my downloads. Okay, so this is saved in my downloads. I'm going to move it to my development directory and to the 6and268 to my repo. Okay, so we can go back to our project over here, and it's already here. What I would like to do is I would like to change the name of this, rename Google Service Account. Okay, so that's Google Service Account.json. And the next thing I want to do is I want to, at the top level, create a emulator functions.sh file. Okay, so that's the file to the emulator functions. Now, the thing I want to write in here is, let's look at our code, is I want to say Google application credentials. I want to export that and then start the emulator. Okay, so export Google application credentials equals yeah, 268 slash Google Service Account.json. Okay, so this is now set, and Firebase Emulators start only functions. Later you can also start emulators for Firestore. Now I can save this file, close it, and I need to change mode 755 so that that's an executable. Okay, and the way to run it is /emulator functions.sh. So that will set the environment variable and also run the emulators, but we'll get there in a second. Okay, let's see what we have next that we need to do. Okay, we need to add Firebase Cloud Functions to our pubspec YAML file. Okay, so we will say over in the terminal, flutter pub add cloud functions. Okay, very good, we have that. Now, the next thing I need to do is I need to do the use Functions Emulator command to the cloud functions. So therefore I go to main, and in the beginning, after the initialized app, Firebase functions.instance and it complains that it doesn't find it, so I can just import the library dot use functions emulator, and it takes two arguments, the host and the port. So we will say localhost, and port is 5001. It's a integer. Okay, so we should be now set with the Firebase Cloud Functions. And the next thing, let's see what's the next thing to do. So in the index.js, we will have to add the import require cloud functions, HTTPS and hello world. I think it already comes with that. So let's check what is in index.js. Yes, so there is an onRequest. So that's the HTTP request. But if we want to call the function from inside the app, meaning from the Flutter app, we would also require the onCall function. Okay, so the hello world we can uncomment, and we can also so we will use onCall a bit later. We can just export hello world on request. So that's just a locally run cloud function. And the way we will start the cloud functions is first, let's go to the cloud function directory, which is here, right? And then in this directory, in the Firebase class, npm install. So we'll install all the necessary packages before we run it. So it's complaining required node 22. The current is 20.19. So what I will do is I have the node version manager, and I'm switch to node 22. I think you should all have the node version manager NVM installed on your machines in generally. All right, so I'm using NVM 22, and I do npm install again. Okay, so index is saved. I think we should be ready to run the emulator. So to run the emulator, I go to the previous directory, and then I run the emulator functions.sh. All right, so first of all, there's a few things that we can look at these emulators, because the first time we're looking at the emulator. So first of all, it's saying there is an HTTP link to the emulators. So we can go there and check, first of all, what is that? Emulator UI. So let me go in here and paste this Emulator UI. Didn't get it. So this is the UI that the Firebase Emulator Suite has created for us, okay? And it's saying everything is off except the Functions Emulator, and it's running on port 5001. And as you know, 127001 is the localhost. Sometimes instead of localhost, you may have to specify that, and but we will get there. And also for Android, there may be a different peculiarity. Okay, so that's the Firebase Emulator Suite. It's saying that it's running, and we don't need to worry about anything. It's good. Now let's look at the stuff that it's spew out. So what it says is that it says load those function definitions from source hello world, and now it's saying it's initialize the function, it's available at this address. And typically the address is the localhost and the port, and then the project ID, and then finally the name of the thing. So I'm copying this link to the function, and let's see what this function is doing. So its function is triggered on request, meaning a request and response object are coming to it. We're not using the request object, and we're just logging to the logs something. That's always useful, you know, if you want to log things off your crowd function runs, but it's not crucial, obviously. But the most important thing is response.send. So to the response object that's coming with the HTTPS request, we're sending hello from Firebase. So if we run this function that we just copied here, this hello world function that we copied in the browser, we should get this result. Okay, so we get hello from Firebase. So that means that our Cloud Functions is now running. Okay, so that's a major step that's already been done, and that's great. We've got to here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now pause and save this as a intermediate point, and then come back, and we'll get on with 1502 as the new branch. Okay, now we move on to calling the functions from the app, and let me start the emulators again. / emulators functions.sh should get the emulator started, and it's in a watch mode, so basically anything that we change in the functions is going to work. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is go to my functions, index.js, and next to this onRequest, I create another function. I just copy this, and this time it's onCall. OnCall is the way we are going to be calling it from the app, and we don't have a response anymore. We just have a request, and for now we can get rid of the logger, and this is going to not response.send, but it will basically just return a data, and what we will return is a map where we can say message is hello from Firebase. So basically you would typically return a map of data, arrays, etc. from a Firebase function, and this is the syntax to return it. And we're not using anything from the request, we're just returning this. So therefore, let's call this hello world call, not to mix up with the onRequest function. So this is our new function, and the moment I save it, it will register it and push it out on the console. Okay, so we have now a onCall function. This is a to call from within the app. Okay, let's do a few things for the app. Currently, I just remove this. Dot Oh, it hasn't been employed. Okay, sorry. I'll just see. Sorry, between the previous install and this one, it rolled back. Okay, the Firebase Cloud Functions have been installed, and I'm just adding the instance for the Functions Emulator into our main. And our main is currently pointing out to this generic page. The home page is a generic page. So I'll go to pages and I'll create a functions test page. So over here, let's see what we called it up in the app, functions demo.dart. Okay, so let's create that. Functions demo.dart, and that should be a stateful widget. Functions demo page, and stateful coming from the material library. This is good. One of the things that I want to do here is I don't think I need anything in the init state, but I want to create a little function called snack. Okay, so we get a snack bar to show us the results when we get something quickly. Okay, so what it will do is that it will look at the scaffold messenger of context, and if there is a current snack bar, it will hide it, and then it will simply go and show snack bar, and the content of it is a snack bar widget. Okay, and the snack bar widget takes a content, is going to be a text of the text. Okay, simple, effectively like an alert, but it's a snack bar that we will show when we need to show something, because we will put buttons and interact with the page. All right, what we need to do is we need to define the HTTP callable function. So our function here is called hello world call. Okay, and in our demo we will say final HTTPS callable. Obviously this is coming from the functions library. Oh, it already brought it. HTTPS callable, final HTTPS callable, and the name is hello world call, is equal to Firebase functions dot instance dot HTTPS callable, and the name is hello world call. So basically we create a reference to this function within Firebase functions, and we just pass in the function name, and it creates this reference as HTTPS callable, which we will then be able to call. Now, the next thing is, this is returning a container. What I wanted to return is actually a scaffold, so let's return a scaffold. Bar. Functions demo, and the body is going to be a column with children, and the first one should be a filled button. Fill button child is equal to text. hello world, and on pressed will be well, basically when we press this button, we want to call this HTTPS callable. So we will say hello world call, and then the syntax is dot call. Okay. Obviously, this is an async function. So if you look at it, it brings an HTTPS callable result. So as you can see from here, it becomes an HTTPS callable result. And so we do an async here. We say, we just call it variable result equals await. So we await hello world call and we get the result. Okay, and then what we can do is that because the result, as you remember, result is going to be this map with a message saying hello Firebase. So the value that's coming in the map is the one that one looking for is the message. So therefore, what we will have to show is call snack of, and let's look at the syntax of the snack. It's taking a normally by the default parameter text. All right, so that's going to be, so this HTTP, so let's do this actually tag HTTPS callable result. Okay, so result, if you do a dot, will have data. Okay, so that's the thing that we will refer to, result.data, and that data is going to be that map, and we will then access the message property within that map using this snack. Okay, now this is good. Let us see if we can get this thing to run. Oh, we're not pointing the functions demo page to the home page. Going to main, and now instead of this, I'm pointing to functions demo page. Okay, and I have my hello world button. Let's see if this will work. Okay, missing plugin exception. Okay. All right. So where is this coming from? So let's go and find some information about running Firebase Functions Emulator on Android. Okay, so for Android, we have to give this address 10.0.22. Okay, so let's go back and change that in our main file. So in the emulator address, instead of localhost, we're going to give 10.0.22. Okay, let's rebuild the app. Let's see if we can get it to run. Okay, so we had a bit of a bizarre issue that I needed to check and test why we were giving an error. Now, the issue is the following. Android, because this function is available on HTTP, which is not an HTTPS, and Android doesn't support any clear text communication, so everything has to be HTTPS. Therefore, what we need to do is we need to go into the AndroidManifest.xml file, and in the application tag, so that's the AndroidManifest.xml file and app src main. In the application tag, we need to include this Android uses clear text traffic equals true. Now, if we do that, that basically means the app can communicate with all possible HTTP resources. Now, therefore, this is now working, and let's quickly test this in our app. So basically, quickly check index.js. We're calling the hello world call, and in the functions demo, we are showing the message. Okay. All right. So let's click on the hello world, and we see that the hello from Firebase has appeared in the snack bar. One other thing that we should check here is the logs in the emulator suite. So basically, all the calls that have been made are showing, basically in detail here. So you can see the logs of these calls. So it's a very good tool to debug your functions. Okay, so we've done the call hello world, and we're not doing exactly this, but we're doing the snack bar, so we're not doing any set state at this stage. So the next thing we want to do is we want to add Firestore to our cloud functions. And the way we do that is with the get Firestore package from Firebase admin, and also the initialize app package from Firebase admin. So let's get these into I'll close the Android manifest. In our index.js, we need to import a few other things. Const, so we want to import get Firestore, and what was the other one? It was called initialize app. Equals require Firebase admin /app /Firestore. Okay, so this is /app, and this is /Firestore. Okay, so we have these two things, and now in order to actually build the connection to the Firestore, we would also have to initialize the Firestore. We just check where we initialize this. So okay, so to initialize the app, we just call initialize app like that, and that should initialize the app. And what we want to do is we want to add some data to Firestore. So to add the data in Firestore, we use again an onCall function with a request, but the request will contain some data, okay? And data will be again a map, and then we will get the collection name and also the content. So into a collection we will put a certain map, okay? And the way we do that is as follows. So exports dot add data is an on-call of, I think we can call request, and here what we will say is that the collection is equal to request.data.collection, and map, or let's call it data, is equal to request.data of data. Actually, let's call it map because we don't want to mix it up with the data. Okay, request.data, so it's the data component of the request and map. And the next thing that we want to do is we want to get the reference to Firestore. So get reference to Firestore is, so get Firestore gets us the default database. So, and it returns a document is equal to get Firestore, okay, dot add, sorry, dot, and then we specify the path. Sorry, we specify the collection, right? So collection, the collection name, and then we add to that collection the map. And the map has to obviously conform to Firestore like this. And what comes back is a document reference. So we call it document reference is get Firestore collection. Okay, so obviously this has to be awaited because it's a future, and what we want to return is this part of this document of reference, let's say, okay, and we want to return the path and the ID. So return path reference.path, and ID is document reference.id. This is what we're returning. So let us see if we will manage to get this thing to work. Okay, so that's add data, and for the add data, I need to go to my functions demo, add another button, and call it add data. Now, the result is the call to the add data. So we need to create a reference to that function. So I create a reference to the add data call. Okay, and this is called add data. That's what we call in our index.js, add data. Okay, so that's the reference to the HTTPS callable. And we have, in the result, we have path and ID. So let's just show the path in the snack bar. And then what we're calling is add data call, and the data that we want to send there is a collection. The collection is let's say function test, we call it like that, function test collection, and the map will be a map of let's say first name John, last name Doe. Okay, so we will see if we can get this thing to work. Right, so let's look at our function. Now we have this add data button here, and we can click on add data and see what comes back, assuming we have okay, this result is local to that onPressed function, so it doesn't. Okay, so it gave me a reference function test and a document ID. And let us go to the database in the project, Firestore database, function test, and exactly that document ID, first name, last name, John Doe. So we have now been able to write data through Cloud Functions into the database. All right, the next thing is we will read data. So let's see what our, get data. So the path will be the path of the object, and then we will just get the data and return the data back to the customer. So we will be writing a function to retrieve data. So it will be actually I can just copy this. Get data request, so we will be given the path. Path is coming in. We don't need any map, and the result, we don't know what it is, but get Firestore dot we just say doc and path dot get. So that will be the result, and what we will return is the doc result dot data. So remember, result.data, this is a method and not a property. Be careful on that. So we're returning the result.data in the data object. Okay, and for the path, I'm going to use just the path that was created here. So the path is just available here. I can copy from here. And in my functions demo, I'm going to use this path as a fixed. Okay, this would be get data, this would be get data call, and path will be equal to this. We haven't defined the get data call, so this will be get data. Okay, so on the snack, we're going to show result.data of data, because we're returning a map whose index is data, and then this is another map there. So what I should show is this data, and then here first name, and it should give me John. Okay, so let's quickly test this if we're going to get it to work. Right, it gave me John as we expected. All right, so I'm going to save this now, and then we're going to look at Firestore triggers. Okay, let's continue now. Now that we've got all this working and we see how it works. Now, the thing that we discussed the other day was about this collection group. So, for example, you have a users collection, and then under certain users you have a cars collection. Okay, so that's car 1, car 2, car 3, car 4. So these are different entities. Now, if you call collection group, if you say collection of users, collection group of cars, right? If you call that, you will get all the cars, and that's a pretty powerful thing in Firestore database that you should be able to utilize, which we talked about in the last class. Okay, deploying functions. One of the things is you need to get Blaze billing plan. Not the Spark billing, the free Spark billing plan, Blaze billing plan, but Cloud Functions are very cheap. You can check on the pricing plans. The Node version should be 22 now. It used to be 20. And this is a command you need to deploy the functions to the cloud. So Firebase deploy my -- only functions. The other deploys are, for example, hosting files or Firestore security files. So right now we're just considering deploying functions. Okay, so when you've deployed a function, you can go to console.cloudgoogle.com, and here you should be able to see all your functions. And the hello world appears here as a Cloud Run function. And there are certain things you can do. You can go into the function and change, for example, how much memory you want to allocate to it, what should be the timeout, etc. These type of things can be modified. Those are more advanced topics, obviously, if you have a very demanding function. But this is the way that you would deploy functions. And if you want to deploy only a single function, you would just say functions : function name, and then you can deploy a single function. Now, the next thing that we want to look at is adding a namespace to your Cloud Functions, because obviously you can imagine if you're going to have 200 Cloud Functions, you don't want all of that in the index.js file. So let's say we have two major types, miscellaneous functions and database functions. Okay, so what I would do in this case is I would create the index file which exports the miscellaneous, the MISC namespace and the DB namespace. Okay, and it's the only thing in the index.js file is this, nothing else. Then you create an init.js file that does all the initialization, and then it exports all these variables that have been initialized. So it initializes the app, and then it exports all these variables. Obviously not initialize app, because that is only done once. Now the next thing is, in the mist.js file, we're going to show the hello world function, right? And for that, we will require the onCall and logger methods from init.js. So init.js, going back, has onRequest, onCall, get Firestore, and logger. But the miscellaneous.js file, which has one function, it could be more, hello world, it only uses logger and the onCall method. So therefore, in this case, this is slightly different than the example we did, but in this case, this is enough. And for the namespace DB in db.js, which again is included in is required by index.js, we now pull in logger, get Firestore, and onCall. So we also include get Firestore because get Firestore is necessary to add and retrieve data. And here we add the two functions that do database interaction. Okay, so now what we have achieved is we have basically split up our functions universe into more manageable files and namespaces, and also as you will see here, now the function receives that namespace in the beginning of its name. So it's no longer hello world, it's called misc hello world. Okay, it gets the namespace in front. So similarly, sorry, just moved too fast. Similarly, the DB functions will get DB dash add data, DB dash get data, etc. Yes, I think that's the way to modularize it when you need to. Now, we want to do a Firestore trigger, okay? So as a serverless computing appeal of Firebase, we can create these Firestore triggers. What are the Firestore triggers? It basically, for example, if a document is created in Firestore, you want to do something immediately in the background without touching anything, without you running a server, etc. You want this to be done in the background. So for that, what we do is that we bring in this onDocumentCreated function from the Firebase Functions package, okay? And we export that from init.js, so we will catch that in the database file, okay? So here in the database file, we will catch this onDocumentCreated coming from init.js, okay? So we have that available now. And what we do is that, for example, I want to do something when a new user is created. Let's say I want to add to a log collection the creation details of a user object. And what that means is that I create my function called onUserCreated. This is not a function that I can call from my app. This is a function that just sits in the cloud functions, and the onDocumentCreated says that it's going inside this Eventarc architecture or event architecture of Google Cloud, such that this function is called whenever the matching document is created. And the matching document is any document that's in the user's test collection with some user ID. And then if it matches this pattern, we have access to this user ID. Whenever this happens, it shoots an event. So this is the match condition. It shoots an event, and what it does is it runs the database. It runs the database get Firestore collection log. So log collection, into the log collection, it adds, first of all, it adds the path of the user's of that new user ID's path. So the event.data is basically, whatever the the data is that was created. So event.data is the document that's being created in the database. .ref is its reference, the document reference, and .path is the path of that document reference, because obviously the document reference has a number of different things. Then it also has the event.data now. So this event.data is the event packet, or the payload that comes with the event. The payload has the document reference, but it also has the creation time. Okay, so we can access all these things and store in a log collection, saying that, you know, at these times these users have been created. Okay, let's say I want to have that log collection. And the way to access the user ID, obviously this user ID that's been created is going to be the data.ref.id actually. But there is another way to match that user ID, which is in the following way. So for example, this is users.test, user/test/ the user ID is 123, okay? And another time it gets created is 456, etc. Yeah, it's a different user ID. In that case, you can just get that matched parameter, but in curly brackets, it means we want to be able to, it could be any number, and I want to be able to get that value. Then you use this, so event.data.params, so that user ID is one of the parameters of that data, of that match, okay? So therefore, let's look at another document created. It's users, it's created under some user ID, in the cars collection under that user ID, and a car. So under the cars collection, a car has been created. So now what I can do is that I can add to this collection, the user ID is event.params.user_ID, the car ID is event.params.car ID, and created at is again the create time. So now I can manage that log. Now the car ID and user ID, because they are very big random numbers or big random strings, you can always refer to the car ID by itself. You don't have to have the full path. The car ID will give you the car as well, with a superbly small probability that there are two documents with the same ID, but usually there isn't. Okay, so that's the pattern matching on this document, and that tells us, that sort of concludes us how the event mechanism works. Now we could go back and do this on document created, but not in we haven't broken it up in pieces, but we can do the following. So we can import, so constant on good, and I think it's from where is it from? Firebase Functions v2 Firestore is equal to require okay, and we do another one, export dot on user created is equal to on document created, okay, and the pattern matching mechanism of this one is like that. Okay, so we were doing this in functions, right? So functions test. Let's start at the beginning. Functions test slash user ID. Okay, that's the user, and this is an async. It gives us an event which we need to manage. Okay, so onDocument created matches the pattern functions test user ID. It creates this event. So let's put something into the Firestore collection. Get Firestore, and then into the collection, let's say log test. Okay, dot add. Now we're adding a map into it, and the map will be user ID is equal to, now the user ID will be basically event dot data dot event dot data dot params, event dot params, because the event catches params. Event dot params dot user ID, that's the user ID, and then create time is event dot create time. I think that's event dot data dot create time. Event dot data dot create time, and the other one is event dot params. Yeah, okay, so that's the correct thing. So basically, if we now add something to this collection, so if we do the add data, we should automatically get something created. So let's run our functions. So dot slash emulator functions.h sh. Okay, so these functions are now running. Let's make sure that all of them have passed. So function ignored because Firestore Emulator doesn't exist or is not running. Okay, we are not going to be able to run this function because the Firestore Emulator is not running, and this has to be actually deployed to the main server. So let's stop this. Let's deploy these functions. Firebase deploy -- only functions, and let's see, must be on Blaze. Okay, all right, so let me pause and go to, so now the deploy has happened. Initially it gave me an error because it was taking a few minutes to set everything up after I changed my plan to Blaze, but it all deployed nicely. Okay, so let us test how we can test this. For example, this is the external URL to run the onRequest function. So remember, all of these other functions, get data, hello world call, add data, on user created, they are not HTTPS functions. The only function is the HTTPS function is the hello world, and that's available at this address that we can call. So let's quickly see how that works. This is our deployed function. Oh, that's interesting. So after checking a few things, the way we solve this is we need to go to Google Cloud Console. And in the Cloud Console, okay, we're in our project, and we have to go to Cloud Run, which is here. And in Cloud Run, we will see that this requires authentication to be invoked. So what we'll do is, first of all, let's start with our HTTP request function hello world. Let's go to its security. It says use IAM to manage the authentication. So we're going to uncheck this and save it and see if this has actually solved our problem. So let's go here and we run the app and it works. So basically the authentication issue has been resolved. For all the other ones, we'll have to do the same. We remove the authentication. In fact, we will have to do another type of authentication when we actually go for a real project, but that's beyond the scope of our remit. And get data, security, save, and hello world call, security, undo, save, and the own user created security, do, save. Okay. So let's see what's happening with our functions and how they are working. Okay, let's get this over here and full screen. Okay. Let's try the app. So let's see if the hello world is working with the real connection. And yes, it's working. Let's see if the add data is working. Yeah, that's working. And let's see if the get data is working. Yeah, that's working as well. Okay. Now, the next thing we can check is that if something happened in the object, so in the function test document, the new documents have been created. But what we don't see is the log. Okay, so function test and yeah, we were listening to this trigger, function test trigger. Okay, or maybe we made a mistake with the name on user created. We called it functions test. Okay, so that's the mistake. Okay, so therefore it wasn't catching it. All right, so now what we need to do is we need to deploy this Firebase function, Firebase deploy -- only functions, and it should be on user created. Okay, so we're deploying only one function, not all the functions, because that's the only one that changed. And in the meantime, let's just clean up this this folder, delete collection. So that's clean. And we're waiting for the function to upload. Okay, Our functions have now deployed, and we can now test this thing with adding data, because when we add data, we should be getting the change. Okay, so it added this data, and let's see what happened in the database. So we need to just refresh this screen. So what we have received is on the function test collection, we got this new name edit, but with this onDocument created trigger, we got the user ID, which is SPB blah blah, which is the same ID as this document, right, into this log test. So what we can do very effectively with Firebase is invoke these cloud functions on the background when certain things happen. For example, you can get an email sent out to a user when they sign up. So with this, this concludes the Firebase functions for us, because we have managed to get almost everything working. And yeah, we'll stop here. Okay, now we're going to talk about Firebase Storage. This is the storage service in Firebase. First, let's have a quick look at what it looks like in Firebase console. So it's the storage service, and right now it seems to be empty. And we have this link to the storage service. This is the default storage link in Google Cloud. You can create different buckets. This is called a bucket. And you should copy this link and use it in your app, basically when we are instantiating the Firebase storage object. Okay, we'll see that in a second. All right, let's go to the presentation. So in this case, what I will do is we'll create a user object somewhere, and then we'll pick up an image and then upload that image to storage, create a download URL, which we can use in our app later to display the images, and save that download URL to the user object. Okay, so let's get started. This is the things that we're going to do. As I mentioned, new user, pick image, upload, and show progress, actually. And display the image then as a network image. Okay. All right, so you can get it, all the data also in the README file of the repo. First, you need to add the Firebase storage, and then create the reference to storage in this way. Basically, putting in your project id.firebasestorage.app gives you access to the bucket. In the testing page, these are the steps that we're going to go through: creating a user in Firestore and picking a gallery, and creating a storage path, and getting a download URL. This is basically with a token that allows us to see this image in storage. Normally, they're protected. We will then display this image using this download URL. Okay. So the user is easy. We've seen this already. So we create a document reference with this add user function. We create a document reference in the user's test collection, just as a name and an email, basically. And all of this is running in a stateful widget. Our app, our page is a stateful widget, and therefore we're going to set state after we've done this. Now, for picking image, we've seen this before, but remember, you'll have to put in the necessary privacy messages to Apple in the info.p list. And again, we've seen our image picker before. It's just, in this case, we're picking it from the gallery, and it gives us an X file, and the path of the image is the path of this X file. The next thing is what I do the path package, the imported path package, to manipulate the extension and base name of the path. I add to it a microsecond since epoch text to further make sure that the image name is not ambiguous, and I keep the original extension of the image. And that way, my storage path in the storage bucket will be users / the ID of the docref, and the docref was, if you remember from here, from the add user, this is the new user's ID, okay? So I'm creating the identical structure users and user ID, identical path in storage as well, just like what I have in Firestore, okay? And then under this user, I'm opening an images folder, and I'm saving the image there, or at least that's the saved path. Okay, now we will remember our save image service consists of 4 files, which is the Dart file, saveimage.dart file, which is the file that we should be importing into our code. And then normally this exposes save image other, which is the unimplemented version. And then depending whether the Dart.io library or Dart HTML library is loaded, it will then use saveimage.io or saveimageweb in the implementation. So if we look at this quickly, we can go so saveimage.dart just exposes the other, but if the HTML library is loaded, it exports saveimageweb. If the IO library is loaded, it exposes or it exports IO. And all 3 of them will have the same, they will have the same methods implemented or not. I mean, in this case, for example, I think for web, we didn't implement we didn't implement anything for the upload to image storage. Okay, we just implemented, in this case, only for the iPhone and Android. Okay, so that's the structure. We've seen this before, and so the upload to storage will upload the file and return us a download URL. Okay, and this download URL is basically what we will catch when we call the upload image to storage, and what we're sending it to it is the X file. This is the picked image file, storage reference which we created in this /user/user ID /images/ the file name. And progress callback is a function that shows us the progress, and we'll see that in a second. So the upload image to storage, what does it do? It takes a file, X file, it takes a storage reference, and it takes an update callback, which is a function, okay, that that takes a double input. And what that means is that we're sending this update callback function, and we need to, with any updates, we need to call this function if there is any update, and then whatever this function, that whoever sent us this function can then do whatever the function is supposed to do. So in the storage reference, which is a Firebase storage object, we're putting the file in this way. So we're putting file, and remember, file is a .io object, not a .html object. So we're putting and we're creating this object here because this is now inside the .io library, because this is in saveimage io.dart. Okay, so we're creating a file, and then we're using this put file method of the Firebase storage reference to put the file. The thing is, this is a task, and the task is created by storage reference.put file. So we can do it this way with the await storage reference put file, or we can do it with a task. And when we do it with a task, we are able to actually listen to snapshot events. So what that means is that we can use the update callback function when there are events coming with that task. So we create the task, and then with the task.snapshot events, we're listening to the event, and from the event we can just make a ratio of the bytes transferred versus total bytes to get the progress, and then we call our progress callback with this value, which is between 0 and 1. Okay, and we'll see what the progress callback does. Okay, so and these are the things that we have created, the task we've created, and then we're running the task with the await. And after the await has finished, we will check this snapshot state. If it's in success, then we will try to go get from the storage reference. So this is the thing. So the snapshot returns us a storage reference, okay? And the storage reference has a method called getDownloadURL. It gives us a download URL which we can use always to access this image from anywhere. It's basically just a HTTPS link. Otherwise, we return null from this. I mean, if the snapshot has not completed with success, we return null because we have nothing to save. Okay, so this is the upload thing, and the most important thing here is this creation of the task. And if the task is created in such a way that we also create a listener in it, we can update a progress callback. So what's the progress callback? So if progress callback is not null, so we sent this bytes transferred to here, and we were just going to look at the progress callback. So those are the things that we just discussed. Now, after returning this, if the download URL is not null, then in a box I show the image using image.network and download URL. So the image is no longer a local file, but it's actually a file from the internet because we have the access link to it. Now, the progress callback was specified as a void function that takes a double. And when it takes this double, it sets the state and sets this progress parameter or progress variable to the value that's being passed to it. So progress variable will be between 0 and 1. And every time there is a change in the progress, it will call the set state so that the UI is updated. Okay? And the progress, the underscore progress variable, is used in a linear progress indicator widget. And we will repaint that widget with set state whenever a new progress value has come in. And the progress indicator widget is simply here. The value is the progress. We give it a height to show it, and that's the progress part. Now, after we have got our download URL, we go to the docref, okay, and the docref again was the user document reference, that the user that we created, right? So now on that user document reference, I can just chain a collection images. So under the user, there will be an images collection. And in there, I can add now this image URL, which is the download URL, but also I can add the path in the storage. So I can add both things as an image under the images of the user. So whenever I want to see all the images of the user, I can just go and call that collection and get this list. And that pretty much sums it up for this. And quickly, let's see how we can run this code. Okay, over here. Let's refresh quickly. Oh, this code is not running. Okay. Let's run the code quickly on the Android. Okay, so the first thing is we add the user. User is added. Then we get an image. Okay, in this case, I got this image. And this is the local path to the image, right? And then I upload the image to storage. So it's uploaded to storage. And the progress indicator has gone to 100%. And the download URL is now shown here. And this image is now coming from the network. So let's at the same time see what we have in the storage. So in storage, we've now have a users folder. If I click on the users folder, there are 2 users, okay, with these IDs. And these user IDs will match the Firestore database user IDs. So users test. There were CN, WU, and RK. Go back to storage, users, CN and WU. So the other RK was a different thing from earlier. Anyway, if we want to go and look under one of the users, so this is the path of this user, right? The bucket / users. So if I want to get the name, or if you click here, it will give you the path like this. With the / format. Okay, so under this users, there are images, and this is the image. So if I click on this image, it shows me the image, when it was created, etc. And this is effectively the download URL. And as you can see on the bottom, the link has it has a token at the end. So if you look at the very end, there's a token, and that makes it possible to use it on the internet to see it. We can see it. And if I go to Firestore database and look at users test images, that information, that path. This is the path in the Firebase storage, and this is the download URL. They are all saved here. So yeah, that's all about Firebase storage. And we can stop here.